Hello everyone, December 15th, 2022. Why are work permits for self-employed, startups, entrepreneurs, and business immigration cases being refused by the Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, IRCC, such as the C10, 11, C12 Intra Company Transfer LMIA exempt work permits, or even for the very popular Startup Visa work permits. We're going to do a deep dive today into the key elements of refusals for these types of investor and entrepreneurial work permit refusals and what IRCC uses against you to justify these types of case refusals. My name is Reza and I work with the Canada immigration team helping applicants move to Canada, whether it's for yourself, your kids, your business, or all of the above. We do make it happen. Let me make this clear, folks. I'm not an actual full-time YouTuber, but I work hands-on with our licensed team working on actual applications and communicating with immigration departments and overseas embassies on a daily basis on behalf of our clients. These videos are made for the purpose of sharing our hands-on Canadian immigration knowledge with our worldwide audience. And if you're thinking about immigrating, well, at Ingwe, we break down the barriers between countries so you can study, work, and invest in the destination of your choice. We're licensed and we help applicants just like yourself and your families. This will be one of a series of videos and content which we will be uploading over the course of the next several weeks and months regarding LMIA exempt work permit refusals under the entrepreneurial, self-employed investment categories such as C10, 11, and C12. These categories include startup visa, intra-company transfers, and entrepreneurial and self-employed streams. We have to make a small disclaimer about what we're explaining today to you on this live video. From the point of view of the Canadian Immigration Department, also known as the IRCC, all applicants fall into two main groups, or we call them IRCC buckets. Either you're from a high refusal region, which also has a huge inflow of applications or demand of immigration to Canada, or if you're from a non-high refusal region, which could be either from a visa exempt or non-visa exempt country. The non-high refusal regions include US, Europe, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Mexico, Israel, Chile, Colombia, Peru, Brazilians with US visas, and so forth, just to give you a few examples. High refusal regions, or perhaps even high volume regions, can be anywhere in Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Far East, and the most notorious high refusal countries would be Venezuela, Cuba, Zimbabwe, and Iran. These would be the most extreme cases of high refusal regions with over 90% refusal rates. So when we're talking about these programs today and the refusal reasons, if you're from a region that is visa exempt or not a high refusal region, you will be in better shape and you don't need to worry as much as the other nationalities or countries. So what we're discussing today mainly has to do with the visa required countries, as I said, with our IRCC bucket of high refusal or high volume regions, which leads to high refusals. Hundreds of startup visa work permits have been refused, as I've mentioned earlier, by the IRCC over the course of November 2022, and they are continuing. And here's why. The IRCC is cracking down on all startup visa applications to weed out non-qualified applications or groups which do not have the true intention or capacity to start or run the startup business in Canada. How are you going to do this? Well, how are you going to overcome all this? They have asked all startup visa applicants to use category C10 of the entrepreneurial significant benefit work permit to apply for their work permits alongside of their PRs. They're using the same criteria of the C10 LMIA exempt work permit to refuse you, stating that either there will be no significant benefit or none planned for Canada based on your application to receive a work permit and arrive in the country. They have even used the logic that the applicant should recheck with Service Canada for an LMIA requirement, since this is another point in the C10 work permit category that the officers can require applicants if there's no clear significant benefit for Canada or in terms of the effects it will have on the labor market here in Canada. How much progress do you have on your startup business? How can you prove to the IRCC that you're working on it and urgently need to enter Canada with a work permit for the success of your startup? If you cannot prove any of this, and then you're on the IRCC hit list in terms of the nationalities or the programs which they love to refuse, and you know it and I know it, that's the reality. So before we move on to the intra-company transfer and work permit refusals in those categories, let's suggest some activities that you can do for startup visa permit application, okay? Do you have proof of your developed product or platform for your startup, like an MVP? What proof do you have that your startup business is real or active? Did you fund the startup bank account to show the investments ready to be made for your startup? Have you posted job ads to hire Canadians to help with your new startup business? Do you have documented experience in this industry that you can prove to the IRCC officer that under the C10 LMIA exempt work permit, you have the expertise and recognition as an expert to run and build up this startup? Do you have a clear roadmap for your business development inside Canada for your startup? Do you have ongoing communication with industry stakeholders in Canada or potential vendors, customers, or even partners for your startup? And last but not least, is your case strong enough to take for judicial review if it's refused incorrectly by an error in law by the IRCC, the Canadian Immigration Department? These are all points to consider before applying. And let's look at the intra-company transfer. C12 LMIA exempt work permit. These are the reasons IRCC uses to refuse you under the C12 work permit category. Your true intention to set up a branch, subsidiary, or joint venture inside Canada is to gain status. This means that they don't believe that you're doing this for business purposes, but rather for immigration. This is the typical refusal note for many applicants from high refusal regions, which I mentioned earlier in this video. You're funding the new Canadian branch from your own personal investments as an applicant, not funding it from the parent company account. That's another refusal. They may not mention it, but these are the refusal reasons. But they'll come up with a million different types of text or content on the refusal letter. However, these are the key things that don't make you eligible to apply, or they will not accept your application. You're moving over more foreign workers to the new branch than Canadian full-time employees during the first year. You did not clearly establish the relationship between the parent company and the new branch in Canada, or the applicant's role in the parent company for a minimum of 1 year before transferring over to the Canadian entity. You do not have a business registered in Canada yet, a bank account that's funded, or commercial lease agreement for the place of your business inside the country, i.e. Canada. There's no justifiable reason for your company to set up or invest in Canada. Hence, they will use the first refusal I mentioned earlier here. This basically means you do not have any prior visits to Canada, business dealings, partnerships, or anything that's justifiable of why you're setting up this business, this branch, subsidiary, or joint venture in Canada. Your parent company revenues, profits, and size does not justify the investment in Canada. The basic example of this would be that you own a small business in your home country, you've got 3-4 employees, and you're declaring $50,000 of profits every year to your government, let's say, or in your financials. Your business plan for the Canadian immigration states that you will invest $200,000 and hire 10 staff. Does this make sense to you? Well, it surely won't make sense to the IRCC officer either. The investment cannot come from you personally as the applicant under the ICT, Intra Company Transfer. The business plan which you submitted includes immigration information about your application. So in the C10 category, C12 category that we're talking about right now, Intra Company Transfer, your name as an applicant and the fact that this is prepared to support an application for an ICT work permit are all red flags for IRCC, which shows that you're not genuinely going to start the business. It's all about the immigration. Make sure you know how to prepare the right business plan for your work permit application. And then another point they don't like is there's no significant benefit clearly stated or justifiable in your application to enter Canada with a work permit. Remember that significant benefit for each region or community in Canada can be different. A $200,000 business inside Toronto or Vancouver may not be significant, but a $90,000 investment in a very poor or underpopulated region of Canada could be a significant benefit. Also remember that under C10 and C11, you can also leverage the social and cultural benefit clauses of these LMI exempt work permits. IRCC will not use this kind of wording, but they will look at your application from this point of view. So if these points of any of them hit a nerve with the IRCC officer looking at your application, they will refuse you, and they'll come up with a million clauses for your refusal letter. But these are the reasons typically that they will refuse an ICT C12 work permit. Remember, the ICT C12 LMI exempt work permit category under the International Mobility Program was created for large corporations or just any kind of corporation to transfer over key staff and executives, not for immigration. So an ideal day for an IRCC officer, a Canadian Immigration Visa officer, to review an ICT C12 work permit is to see applications from Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Procter & Gamble, Adidas, Nike, or some large manufacturer corporation sending staff from overseas to their location in Canada. That's the golden standard. So if you know how IRCC officers think and what they want to see, then you can most likely be able to prepare a correct application to avoid refusal. So let's also quickly review the C10 and 11 LMI exempt work permits under the significant benefit for Canada categories. Remember that C11 is for self-employed individuals and entrepreneurs, which can also include entertainment, art, culture, or other types of specific professions where you do not need to hire Canadians to prove significant benefit. You're not expected to hire people, and if you include that in your business plan under the C11, like, oh, I'm going to hire 5 to 6 people, that's going to be a red flag for IRCC because it's based on your self-employed profession that in terms of duplicating your success or bringing that social cultural benefit that they're approving you, not to come hire 10 people because that doesn't fit into those professions, right? You have to utilize the key significant benefit for Canada under cultural and social, which are the subcategories. You do not need to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're in certain professions. Let's say you're in the media, movie, production, you're an author. You just need to prove that your presence and activity in Canada will bring significant benefit as it has in your own home country based on your current profession, and you meet all the eligibility criteria outlined in the C11 category. And again, let's look at the C10 LMI exempt work permit category. You can leverage significant economic benefit under this category by starting a brand new business, buying an existing business, or a combination of these. The IRCC officers will be scrutinizing your application in detail if you're from a high refusal or high volume country and your business plan or significant economic benefit is not justifiable. They will use similar refusal reasons that we covered for the Startup Visa program earlier in this video. However, their main refusal reason is that you're applying to claim status and not really to start a business, or that there's no clear benefit for Canada. There's a benefit for you to come to gain status, but not a benefit for Canada to let you in. The key point to remember here is that if you plan on starting or buying a business in the major cities of Canada and you're not investing large sums of money, you could or would be refused. Either go to rural parts of Canada if your investment is not significant, or bump up your project scope. Similar to C12, Intra Company Transfer work permits, if you've never visited Canada or have no prior business connections or dealings, you will be refused if you apply from a high refusal or volume region. So make sure you do an exploratory trip if you don't already have business dealings in Canada. I hope the above information that we've discussed here in this video today will give you an idea how IRCC officers think, what they're looking for in terms of red flags, and then what they use against you to refuse you, right? For these LMI exempt work permit applications for self-employed, startup visa, and entrepreneurial significant benefit programs. We will continue to monitor the IRCC refusals and approvals and keep you updated over the coming weeks and months on the latest trends and patterns that we see. It's becoming more and more difficult to get these approvals today versus 2-3 years ago, pre-COVID. So make sure you're ready with the right type of application. Another reason that the refusals have increased is A, they don't have the processing capacity, so they prefer to refuse. 2, they're more interested in other categories. These are not their priority categories anymore. 3, because of the Quebec Investor Program being closed for the last 2 years, many applications are being submitted to come under the C10, 11, or 12 to gain immigration status. And IRCC officers are aware of that because of the Quebec Investor Program being closed. People are trying to get it through these other programs, and hence they're scrutinizing and being picky about who they're approving. Tell us if you've applied recently and were approved or refused, and what your nationality was under these LMI exempt work permits. We'd love to hear from your audience and have your feedback. Is it ICT, Intra Company Transfer? Is it for the Startup Visa? Is it the C10, 11 significant benefit category work permit? Which one is right for you? Are you looking to invest for business purposes or just for immigration? Give us your feedback. We love to hear back from your audience. And if you're thinking about immigrating through investment, business, startup, or skilled immigration, well, you're at the right place. Let me tell you, folks. I can guarantee you only one point. You will know what to expect. The entire process clearly communicated to you. All the risks identified, and where we can provide you as our client 100% support. No surprises, just results. We have a $1 million liability insurance which protects you and us from fraud or mistakes. And we've got dedicated client trust accounts with our Canadian banks. Our team speaks over 8 languages, and we help applicants from over 47 different countries, and that's growing during their immigration process to Canada. Click the link below this video to get a free email assessment for qualified applicants. And if you already know what you want and your timeline is clear and you're ready to apply, well, you can book a one-on-one consultation with me or any of my other immigration consultant colleagues at our office using the link in the description of this video. And if you've got questions, remember we're here weekly live, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram every Thursday, 11 a.m. North America Eastern Time, where we answer all of your immigration questions for free on the spot. And yes, we're in our live session right now. If you're watching a recording of this later, well, this was a live recording as of December 15, 2022. But again, we have this every week. Quick note for our viewers on Facebook and Instagram, I cannot see your comments and questions during our live, so I won't be able to answer them. But for our YouTube audience, we can definitely go through it together right now, see what questions you have, and we're here to answer all of our audience members' Canadian immigration questions for free. And that's what we've dedicated this time for every Thursday at 11 a.m. We've got a few audience members. Nasreen Ibrahim says, Hola Reza Jun, buena sorte. Thank you, Rosita, for joining us. I think you missed us last week, but I believe you're on track today. Ade kunle olyunka ade do kun. Okay, sorry if I didn't say it correctly. Ade kunle. What is the type of short program IRCC refers to as prerequisite for DLI for study permits in Canada? So, ade kunle, that's a good question. It's for study permits, so it's for visitors, visa holders who arrive into the country. Within the first 6 months, they need to complete a prerequisite to an academic program at a DLI. So this could be language, adekunle, right? So it could be any prerequisite. So let's say you do a math course for 4 months before you apply, and that's a prerequisite. So you get a conditional letter of acceptance that says you need to complete this part, and then you complete that prerequisite stated on your letter of admission inside the country within the first 6 months of arrival with your visitor visa, that will allow you to apply for a study from inside of Canada and not go out. Okay. Hi Tam, Musa says, Reza, I'm really upset and feel it's impossible to get the PR approval on SUV. Hi Tam, it's not impossible. You've got a 50-65% chance of approval, but again, you've got to be in an active startup group. You've got to have a real startup. You've got to be investing. You've got to be showing that proactiveness and that significant benefit for Canada in your startup, right? And if you're from a country where the refusals are higher, you don't have Canadian visitor visa history or a valid US visa, then that could be an issue. Faisal says, hi, I'm from Bangladesh. I've never visited Canada, so I want to help start a business in Canada. Faisal, if you do not have dealings in Canada, like let's say vendors, suppliers, or customers, or something significant like a partnership, then you'd have to do a visitor visa to come in, do an exploratory to increase your chances of approval. Otherwise, yes, you can apply from Bangladesh, but most likely you'll be refused. Okay? Or you start the business in Canada. Here's another, small hack. You start a business, you hire Canadians, right? And it's operating. And after 6 months or 8 months or 10 months, you apply for your investor entrepreneur work permit. That could work too. But again, visitor visa may be easier depending on your case. We do help all of our business applicants apply for their visitor visas before, if needed, before we apply for their investor work permit. So you can contact us, and if you are a qualified applicant, of course our office is there to help. Adil Javid says, hi Reza. Hi Adil. Safa Saleh, how are you, my friend? Safa, good to see you. Nice to see you again. I'm waiting for my work permit under Startup Visa in UAE, but I hope that in my case will not be rejected because all the reasons for refusal are covered. Let's hope. No problem, Safa. The key is they look at your travel history, your existing professional profile, your startup, and what you've done, and what are you planning to do in Canada. Why is it a benefit? Why is it urgent? The wording on the letter of support of why the incubator believes that it's urgent that you arrive to Canada with a work permit is also very important. Remember that. Shazana, hi, next week can you compare different investment programs like SUV, OINP, SINP? There's a lot of programs, Shazza. We actually have a table of, I think, literally 10 to 12 programs of a comparison table. So it won't be possible to actually compare everything within 30 or 45 minutes on a live session or a recorded video because there's so many different programs, right? But what we can do is we can do a comparison. So if my marketing manager is watching, Edgar, here's some feedback from one of our audience members saying that to do a comparison of the different investment programs, we can do it, and I would love to do it with the most popular investment programs. Startup Visa obviously be one of them. Entrepreneurial, provincial entrepreneurial. We won't compare OINP, SMP, or specifically, we'll just do provincial entrepreneur, and then we'll do like the federal work permits that we covered today on the refusals, like C12, Intra Company Transfer, C10 and 11, significant benefit. So that's great. We won't be able to do it next week, Shahzad, because we've got like our whole calendar of content set up already with the help of my team, of course, the marketing team. And that'll be probably something maybe for February, okay? Because we've got our content already lined up. But great feedback, great suggestion. Thank you for that. Adil Javid says, if you arrive with your family inside Canada, already having a visitor visa, can children be admitted to school and meanwhile you explore options for startup or work permit, LMIA? You can apply for your minor's study permit. You cannot just go study with a visitor visa. You need to have a study permit for your dependent children. And then while you're on a visitor visa, of course, you can be looking at opportunities. It could be an exploratory trip, looking for startups, businesses, where to do it, contacts, research. That's all very important. Faisal says, is it possible to start a profitable and scalable business even before visiting Canada? And we two brothers want to invest together, and our budget is that's 100,000, right? How many zeros are there? My eyes are going, folks. Yeah, $100,000. Sorry, my eyes are really, they're on their way out. So, Faisal, 100,000 is okay. It's not significant for big cities, right? If you go in very small locations, cities or rural regions or underpopulated areas, it could be two brothers. 100,000 probably wouldn't work. Is it possible to start and run a profitable business in Canada without even coming in? If you don't already have contacts here or have never done business, no, it's not possible. I would suggest doing a visitor visa. 100,000 could be true, but for Bangladesh applicants, nationalities with no prior experience or history in North America, I would say it's a long shot and potentially, higher refusal chances. Okay, I'm just being very honest with you, everyone. We don't want to raise people's hopes and tell you yes, 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 and then it's not possible. Okay, we want to make sure you're on track to apply correctly, to make sure you check all the IRCC check boxes when they're reviewing your application. Okay, $100,000 is definitely a good amount of money, but not in Toronto, not in Vancouver, not in Calgary, not in Ottawa, not in the major cities. Okay, it could be in a town of 1,000 people. It could be, but not in a larger city. Okay, but again, the significant benefit doesn't have to be an investment. You could be providing a service or product to an underserviced or populated area, and that allows other businesses or communities to thrive or to operate or not to close. There's a lot of ways of doing significant benefit. However, just coming here and starting a business that you've never been here, you've never done business here, you don't have clients here, you don't have investors here, you don't have suppliers here, then I would say you would apply for a visitor visa and come here first. That's highly recommended. But thank you, folks, for all the feedback and questions. If you're joining us now and you're like, what is this guy talking about? Well, we're here on our live session every Thursday talking about Canadian immigration, right? So we've discussed all the refusal reasons or the potential red flags to be refused today for Intra Company Transfer, Startup Visa, C10, 11, significant benefit for Canada, federal work permits. Okay, and if you are interested to apply, again, our team can do an assessment on qualified applicants. Reach out to us through our website. Faisal says, thanks a lot, sir. No problem, Faisal, always here. We're here Thursday. Next week, we're going to do the top 3 ways to convert to PR in Ontario. We're going to come in with some IRCC news as well over the coming week. The latest updates, sort of summarizing all the key updates on the federal and provincial and Service Canada, anything related with Canadian immigration. So that's up for next week. And then stay tuned for more startup and business immigration videos and content coming out on over the next 4 to 8 weeks on our website and of course on our social media channels, including YouTube. If you are watching on Instagram or Facebook, I cannot see your live comments or questions, unfortunately, because of the streaming software we're using. We only see YouTube audience members' live comments. So great question by Mohammed Harris. What is the difference between C11 and C12? C12 is basically setting up a branch subsidiary or a business inside Canada that is related to a parent company overseas. So your business, let's say you own a company or you're working for a guy, they decide to set up a branch or subsidiary or joint venture inside Canada, and they can transfer over staff to the Canadian branch with the work permit. Okay, so there's got to be a relationship between the new entity in Canada and overseas parent company. So that means you already have an existing company, or there is an existing parent company that wants to invest or set up in Canada. That's C12, okay? That allows them to transfer over key executives or key staff members. And then the C11, I believe, I think you deleted the question here. The C11 is for significant benefit for self-employed entrepreneurs. And in that category, you can actually bring in people who are in entertainment, media, art, culture, a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be, it's not like a big business where you're going to hire 10, 20 people. If you're coming in to just start a brand new business and you don't have a brand company, you would be looking at C10, not C11. Okay, C11, they all have the economic significant benefits, social and cultural. But if you've got social, cultural, that's where we would use C11. Because again, self-employed professionals in art, culture, entertainment, media, these are things where you don't need to hire people per se to be successful or to provide benefit for Canada. And that's where we would use C11. So there is an overlap between all three. C12 is very clear, but C10 and 11, there's a little bit of a blur, but C12 is pretty, much more different. So Mohammed says, actually, I own a company in Canada since 2 years and my home country as well. Well, there you go, Mohammed. If there is an overlapping relationship, let's say there's, joint shareholders, or it's an overlapping relationship of ownership between the two companies, you can apply under the C12. But again, we have to see the significant benefit, Mohammed, right? So we have to look at that to see what is the benefit. Is it operational in Canada? And we can apply for a C12, bring you in, and then do an assessment of if you want to stay here and convert to PR. We have to look at it in a separate program that, okay, you're inside Canada with the C12 work permit. How can we convert you now? Adenkule says, is it compulsory that the DLI of interest must be the one the short program will be undertaking? No, Adekunle, absolutely not. So you do a program somewhere else, a prerequisite to go to another, let's say, college or university with a conditional letter of admission. Again, remember, you need a conditional letter of admission. You need to meet that condition by completing a prerequisite at any institute inside Canada. And then you could be eligible to apply for a study permit conversion from your visitor visa from inside Canada. Mohammed Harris says, thank you for your answer. No problem, Mohammed. If you need help, let us know, reach out to us. But the key point is mention that you interacted with me on a YouTube live. And I said, well, your case looks pretty good. So let's look into the details and qualify you. Ugona Ebi says, can I apply for a provincial nominee program while waiting for startup visa? That's a good one. That's a good question, Ugona. Provincial nominee programs are PR streams with work permits. Okay, so they're PR, not work permits. When you apply under the startup visa, you've applied for your PR already. So if you get nominated through a provincial nominee program, another program, you have to withdraw your startup visa when you're applying for your PR under the PNP. And if you're an essential member, that would by default refuse everyone in your group. So food for thought, Ugona. Mohammed Harris says, can I sponsor myself being an IT employee in my own company? Yes, if you are a key executive or key staff member, let's say you own the company, of course you can come and for your own business in Canada, Mohammed. That is natural. And that's the whole point of this program, is to transfer over key staff or executives. You're an executive because I assume you're a shareholder or a key executive or senior manager of that company. You don't need to be, but since you own it, well, even better. Shahzad Ahmed says, hello, Reza. Shahzad, good to see you here. Mohammed Harris says, actually, all the money had been coming in my personal account, not in the business account. Mohammed, we'd have to change that, right? To make sure that you've got business accounts, you've got a company that's transacting, and the money is not related to you personally. You can give a loan to the parent company that will invest in the Canadian entity, but the money should not be coming directly from your personal, because this is not an immigration program like the provincial entrepreneur or startup visa programs. Shahzad Ahmed says, please share details about your video on self-job offer letter by registering company in Canada. Shahzad, we do have a video, as you said. You've watched it probably, about issuing yourself a job offer. If issuing yourself a job offer would fall onto these C10, 11, and 12 categories. So that's one part of it. The rest is actually going through the eligibility criteria under the C10, 11, 12. I'm not sure where the video is, but it is on our YouTube channel. As you know, probably you've watched it. But again, it's all falls under the C10, 11, and 12. And in the next 2 weeks, we're doing a video specifically about the C12 intra-company transfer. And that's one of the job offers where you can give yourself to transfer over to the Canadian entity, or you can fall under the C10 or 11. Alice Birech says, can one get a caregiver job and what are the requirements? No, unfortunately, Alice, not as a caregiver. You can be a key executive or key person in a company, let's say transferring over to the Canadian entity, but it cannot be a caregiver job. Okay, it could be a manager that's managing caregivers, but or supervisor, a caregiver for that role. The funny thing, I like that name. Possibility of work permit after the first application got refused. It's possible, like study permits, visitor visas. It just has to be done correctly, and you have to address the reasons they refused you. Look at the Global Case Management System notes, the GCMS or the CAPES notes, as many people say, and make sure you've got a strong application the second time around, okay? I've seen many refusals coming in and people sharing their stories with us. So one refusal doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You reapply, but you got to apply correctly. You just don't reapply for the sake of reapplying because you were refused. You've got to do it right, right? Mohammed Harris says, after your answer, I think C11 would suit me because of the transactions being made into personal account. Well, it depends, Mohammed, because of the profession, right? So they can't, you can't just coming under C11 and say, oh, I'm a professional IT person. We have to look at the details of your profession, your business, the setup, the clients, and then we can suggest if it's C10, 11, or 12. Okay, right now, I think it's a little bit blurry between all three. We'd have to more... Funny Singh says, absurd reasons. Of course, Funny Singh, IRCC's refusals are always absurd. And we all agree on this channel that the IRCC has absurd reasons. So you got to look at this notes from the refusal. It'll take about a month, right? 30, 45 days. Then reapply, but make all the corrections before you reapply. So maybe it's because you don't have the ties to Canada. Maybe you just woke up and you said, I want to start a business there. You've never been to Canada. You've never bought anything from Canada. You've never sold anything to Canada. You don't have a proper relationship, right? That could be one. But again, we've got to rectify that. Mohammed Harris says, please share your email ID. Mohammed, can you go to our website or just email us at youtube@ingway.ca. We've got all of our details on our social media. Email, mention you interacted. My team will start qualifying you, making sure it's all correct, and then passing you over to us. And then my steps are, I do a complete assessment, asking more questions, proposing some programs that you're eligible under, and then we go into proposal mode. So 3-4 steps, easy. Web Wube Whoop. Wube Whoop. Nice name, I like it. Very unique. Tell me what happened to spousal sponsorship? Medical done, May 2022. There's no update from IRCC. Wube Whoop, you have to understand that right now, IRCC is overflown with applications from different categories. They are way behind, and I've seen people literally with 10 months overseas waiting for their sponsorship to go through after the medical or even before the medical or at any stage of the process. There's no clear answer for you, unfortunately, because the IRCC is like a black box. Nobody knows what's in there. Nobody knows what's going in there. Nobody knows what's coming out or when it's coming out. You're gonna, Eddie, thanks for that. So my spouse diploma, and that take us into Canada. You separately, yes, Ugona. So you can, let's say your spouse applies separately under a study permit from overseas, and he studies. So he can be there doing his thing. You're doing your thing under startup. Can be independent, but he's still going through the PR stream under startup visa. So if he applies for a PR, you can't just separate a couple that are married, right? So you have to decide which PR stream, because you've got to withdraw the other one. You cannot have two PR applications at the same time. Said Mohammed Ibrahim, what is 179 in result? What is 179 said? I'm not sure what the question is in result, or maybe you're talking about refusal. Alice Burek says, thank you for your answer. No problem, everyone. We are here to help everyone out. Okay. Shahzad Ahmad says, thank you. I've also emailed to your company. I've been in correspondence with Rina. Perfect, Shahzad. We will look into that. My team is very responsive, sometimes not like me, but I prioritize client files over new people coming into our company. But again, 3-4 steps, we'll assess you, will propose. If it's within your budget, we'd be happy to help. Say it. So you're probably asking about 179 in the Immigration Refugee Protection Regulations, the refusal, say it, right? If they use 179, it means they suspect that you will overstay your temporary resident permit or visa. So there may have been history from you before in other countries or in Canada or somewhere else, and they don't believe you'll actually leave. You will overstay. That's why they would use a 179 refusal clause. Mohammed Harris says, last question. For provincial nominee program, Alberta, job offer requirement. Can I offer a job myself required for PNP? No, unfortunately, the job offer under C10, 11, 12 does not overlap with provincial. Provincial has to be an independent employer that's eligible inside the province, most provinces, of course, to give the applicant overseas or inside Canada a job offer. You cannot give yourself a job offer under a provincial nominee program. Mohammed Harris says, I own 100% of both companies in Alberta, in my home country, and be eligible for PR. Good, but you won't be able to do the provincial program. Actually, Reza, I was a PR holder and left my PR voluntarily, but my company still exists as I had been on payroll and owner of my company and paid the taxes too. That's good. That's good. I mean, it's not good that you gave up your PR, but you can always reapply, right? Of course, if you're eligible. But that were low wage, not up to executive level, and the money company was earning was coming in my virtual bank account, not in company business account in Canada. Well, if you can justify or you can reinvest, we can structure it somehow. We just need all the details. Mohammed says, and both years I declared in Canada, actually there was profits of about 200,000 in these 2 years. Okay, well, you have to sort of maybe think about your 2022 tax filings to show profits. And of course, you can use the losses as a tax credit for this year. So if it's going into a loss and you have no Canadian staff, it may be tricky. So we just have to look at the case and restructure it, Mohammed. But the money I had been bringing in my home country in personal account, okay, and revenue in these 2 years was around 400,000. Well, there's definitely potential, Mohammed. As I said, we just have to restructure. Thank you for the information. But yes, definitely you've got clients in Canada, which is great, right? You're ahead of the game already. You're ahead of the pack. You're ahead of on the bell curve here. Faisal says, sir, what document should I prepare before applying for an exploratory trip? And I want your help doing that. No problem, Faisal. The key is your travel history, your financial assets, your employment, your intention and your plan to visit and do an exploratory in Canada. We would offer you a visa with a judicial review, which means we would work with our team members and lawyers to actually take it to federal court, asking for a judge to review it, to accept the case for review if you're refused, if it's a solid case. Again, we will only take on cases that are qualified. We don't want to waste your money. We don't want to waste your time. That's our motto, and that's why we're here every week on Thursday answering questions live. Thank you, everyone. I've been talking a lot. I do need a drink, non-alcoholic, of course, but just water or coffee or tea. But we'll be back next Thursday, live Thursday, 11 a.m. North America Eastern Standard Time, to answer all of your questions. Shout out to everyone who was here today. Mohammed Harris, great talking to you. Faisal, very nice. Cheers, regards to you in Bangladesh. Shahzad, great to see you here as well as your connection with Rina at our office. Alice Birek, Said Mohammed Ibrahim, Ugona Ebi, Vubevub, and of course, the funny thing, great question. And who else did we have here? Adekunle, about converting from a visitor visa to study permit from inside Canada. And remember, watch our video. Folks, quick reminder, we've got and Faisal, and of course Safa, he's our good buddy now. He's like here every week. And of course, folks, don't forget, it's the FIFA World Cup finals this Sunday. Who's playing? Oh my God, I think it's France and Argentina. Oh yeah, sorry guys, I'm not really watching that much the games, but it's FIFA World Cup this Sunday, so make sure you watch that before you join us next week on our Thursday live. Rahim Moti is asking one last question. How much investment amount needed for ICT immigration? There's no specified amount, Rahim. There's no amount documented on the regulations with the Canadian Immigration Department. It just has to prove significant benefit. But again, reach out to us. We'll give you some ideas and figures. Depends what industry you're in, what region you're planning to do, what is the industry. You could literally come with $1 or $1 million. Okay, that's a broad range, or nothing. But again, remember, case by case is different. Somebody who's invested $200,000 has been refused because it was done incorrect. Somebody who's done $105,000 has been approved, right? It depends where, what. We've got to see the big picture. It's not a numbers game. And that's what IRCC is doing. If they're just seeing a number and they don't believe the application, they will refuse it. And they're refusing a lot of cases. Hence why we're making this video. Thank you, Wubevub, Faisal, Rahim. Thanks for joining us. Next Thursday, 11 a.m. Toronto local time, folks. See you then. It was great seeing everyone online. And Rahim says, thanks, I'm into steels and trading business in India. Rahim, reach out to us because I used to be a commodities trader for 20 years. And I did stainless steel for a while too. So I know a lot about that. And we can probably guide you in terms of how to structure your business or that application. Okay. The key is you got to deal with somebody who actually knows business and immigration. That's the combination you get when you work with us, folks. Take care. All the best to everyone and enjoy the FIFA World Cup final on Sunday.